On August 23rd, Fox News hosted the first debate of the 2024 presidential race in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, featuring 8 potential presidential candidates running for the Republican Party nomination. Fox News anchor and moderator Martha McCallum asked former governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, about the UFO issue. Let's take a listen.
Do you believe that the recent spike in UFO encounters...
I get the UFO question?
Yeah, you do.
Come on,
there
man.
But, okay, we've been hearing a lot of testimony in Congress, and people are taking this a lot more seriously, and we're hearing that, there are things going on that people aren't aware of. So, if you were president, Governor Christie, would you level with the American people about what the government knows about these possible encounters?
Martha, and especially coming from a woman from New Jersey, I think it's horrible that just because I'm from New Jersey, you asked me about unidentified flying objects and Martians. We're different, but we're not that different.
So right off the bat, Chris Christie says to Martha McCallum, I get the UFO question? Come on, man. Which is ironic. He was profoundly privileged to receive the UFO question. Had he answered it responsibly and eruditely, that soundbite may have gone down in history. He had his chance, and he blew it. Because I do think we are headed toward a post-disclosure world. Now, I wish Martha would have asked candidate Vivek Ramaswamy that question, because he's actually chimed in on the UFO issue. He provided a tweet on July 26th, which we'll read in a little bit. Anyways, Chris Christie then goes on to cite Martians and make light of such a serious issue, which is completely irresponsible. And it really reveals his ignorance of not only such an important topic, but also of national security, since the UFO issue is inherently a national security issue. Now, Fox News dropped a really interesting article the day after this presidential debate, and it was titled, UFO Whistleblower Unhappy with Christie Response to Debate Question. Americans deserve answers, not jokes. Here's a citation. Graves fired back at Christie over his comments in his statement to Fox News Digital Thursday. When is laughter ever an acceptable response to a national security question? Graves wrote, referencing Christie's flippant response to the question. Advanced UAP present a clear and present national security problem. So I invite Governor Christie and any presidential candidate to meet with Navy pilots who have witnessed advanced UAP that exceed our tactical jets, Graves added. Americans deserve answers and transparency, not jokes about aliens that perpetuate stigma and suppresses reporting. On August 28th, Neil deGrasse Tyson was interviewed by TMZ, and he was asked about the question given to Chris Christie during that debate and the UFO topic in general. I'm going to play the clip and then we'll talk about it.
Do you think the government needs to be more open and honest with us, like the candidate Chris Christie was promising in the debate?
Do you think the government is that competent that they could actually keep such a secret? Maybe. Oh my gosh, when did you get that much confidence in the U.S. government?
So you think they don't know much? We think they do, but they don't.
Here's what I'd rather think. That if we had an alien invasion, more than the U.S. government would know about it.
Right.
We would know about it.
If I'm being perfectly honest, I think those sentiments by Neil deGrasse Tyson are going to age horribly. I also think that he depicted the post-disclosure world flawlessly. The post-disclosure world will be characterized by looking at our world and our cosmos through entirely new lenses, devoid of all the assumptions we previously felt safe to make. I find it very strange how many people assume such concrete ideas about the nature and reality of our universe, considering our civilization is so brand new when it comes to modern technology and innovations. Just as an example, the first fully electronic programmable computer was the Colossus, built during World War II in the 1940s. The first true automobile, powered by an internal combustion engine, emerged 137 years ago in 1886. The first human-made object to be put in space happened in 1957, a mere 66 years ago, with the Soviet-made Sputnik 1 satellite. That blows my mind, actually. We've only had man-made objects in space for the last 66 years. Let that sink in. That underscores how little we have progressed and how new we are at technology and exploration. The first controlled, sustained powered flight with a heavier-than-air aircraft took place in 1903, just 120 years ago. So when we passage into a post-disclosure world, which I believe that we will, we're going to have to look back at these proclamations, these sentiments by people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, which you just saw, and many other very intelligent, highly educated people, and ask ourselves, why did they feel so confident to make these assumptions when we as a civilization were and are so early into progressing as a civilization that is just starting to understand the scientific method and get our hands on equipment to investigate and explore our world in a way we have not been able to do for eons.
The problem you've got is there have been categorical denials from high-level officials in the US government, even presidents, that what you're saying is true.
Unfortunately, some elected officials were not brought in.
One of the core testimonies of David Grush is that the United States has and continues to engage in an active campaign to lead the American public and by extension the world astray on the reality of UFO technologies that do not originate from human hands, allegedly. In that clip from the interview with investigative journalist Ross Coulthart that dropped on June 11th, Grush explains that some elected officials, specifically presidents, were not read into this reality. And so if that's true, that obviously is in stark opposition to Neil deGrasse Tyson's sentiment that the U.S. government cannot keep this secret. Well, I don't think the U.S. government has kept it secret. I think there's been leaks for decades. It's just that there's never been a leak of the stature that is consistent of some kind of smoking gun evidence. There have been people that are credible and credentialed that have been coming out of the government for decades, blowing the whistle, if you will, that the U.S. government is not being forthright on the UFO topic. That's been happening forever. And it has not ceased. And it seems to have reached a new level with what's taken place since the New York Times article in December of 2017, all the way up until David Grush coming forward. And from everything I hear, more whistleblowers will come forward and testify under oath, echoing what David Grush has stated under oath. Anyways, one of the problems I have with what Neil deGrasse Tyson stated is that if he's wrong, then he's kind of destroyed his credibility when it comes to the analysis of the UFO enigma and governmental involvement with it. He's just way too sure of his position in like a smug kind of and an antagonistic kind of way. And I think that if he ends up wrong, what exactly is he going to say then? I mean, he could have worded it all in a way where he showed a little bit of humility, but he did not. He could have still maintained his position without being so maybe even hostile towards the potential that the U.S. government has been covering up this topic and has been successful in keeping it from leaking in a way that would demonstrate empirically that some UFOs actually do originate from non-human intelligence. Now, here is a quote from Michael Schellenberger's article that he published a ways back, not too long ago, where he spoke with some of the people that informed David Grush on the UFO topic. And I think he spoke to other people. Actually, there have been a fair amount of journalists who have been speaking to direct witnesses that have not yet come forward. And I quote, "Every 5 years, we get 1 or 2 recovered UFOs for one reason or another, from either a landing or that we catch or they just crash." Now, let's say this is true, that some of them crash, some of them land mysteriously, and the occupants are either dead when they land or they leave the vehicles, which is ominous, or they're caught. And maybe that means, because even David Grush said in that interview from June 11th that there are methods to take these things down. And in this context, we are not talking about Russian or Chinese aircraft or drones or satellites. We are talking about non-human craft. So let's say the America and America's allies and even adversaries have been involved in a multi-decade Cold War in recovering these downed craft and also striving to back engineer them so that they could have an asymmetric advantage over adversaries when it comes to warfare. If this is true, and this has happened insulated from all 8 billion of us, and the sheer degree of forensic proof that governments like the US have of this presence is overwhelming, what does that mean about our judgment as human beings, our perception? It's funny. It's funny. Some skeptics will say that what I and other people are doing is we're indulging in wishful thinking or escapism or want to believe syndrome and so forth. In other words, we are getting caught up with biases that are completely irrational. But what if that idea gets flipped on its head and collectively, in some sense, all 8 billion of us were totally and completely and utterly wrong about the nature of reality? That governments all over the world were capable of covering this up, capable of not only covering it up, but lying to their countrymen intentionally and leading them astray, capable of insulating some of the materials recovered, and sometimes even full craft recovered, and sometimes even biological specimens. If that is the reality of the situation, that means that those of us that were so skeptical that this could be real were actually, and very ironically, falling victim to irrationality equivalent to the irrationality that it was believed that people like me were falling victim to irrationality. In other words, if this is all true, and I could be wrong, but if it is all true, what a post-disclosure world actually is in practice is a world turned upside down, where what was conceived to be rational is irrational, and what was conceived to be irrational was rational. Now, obviously, every claim made about UFOs is not going to end up true. But I do believe, don't know, could be wrong, but I do believe the core claim will end up empirically true, and consensus reality will catch up with this claim as truth, that the U.S. government did have forensic proof that this presence does not come from adversarial nations and that it is not of human origin. Beyond that, who knows what's true regarding all of the claims that have been circulating for decades. Now, to close out this video, I'm going to share with you the tweet that I mentioned earlier by presidential hopeful Vivek Ramaswamy, where on July 26, he laid out a bunch of questions that he would like to ask about UFOs. And I'm not promoting him as a candidate. I'm merely citing a tweet that he made, and I hope that all presidential candidates will start taking, if they haven't already, this topic much more seriously and pushing for UFO transparency. Anyways, Vivek writes, ahead of the House Oversight Committee's UFO hearing today, I'm calling on committee members to publicly ask witnesses the following 7 questions. We can handle the truth. Number 1, has the U.S. government become aware of actual evidence of extraterrestrial or otherwise unexplained forms of intelligence? If so, when did this first occur? 2, what are the names and titles of the people with direct first-hand knowledge of and access to the crash retrieval programs? Which facilities, military bases house the recovered material? 3, what special access programs cover this information, and how is it possible that they have evaded oversight for so long? 4, when did these programs begin and who authorized them? 5, what level of security clearance is required to fully access these programs? With Dr. Kirkpatrick of Arrow seemingly unaware and David Grush being denied access, Title 10 and Title 50 authorization are apparently insufficient. So what's necessary and who gets to decide? 6, which private corporations are directly involved in this program? How much taxpayer money has been invested in these programs? 7, has there been any active U.S. government disinformation campaign to deny the existence of unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs? If so, why? Well, that about wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed. A lot more to come, so please do not forget to subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You can become a patron. You could become a YouTube member. You could give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description below, or you could just slap a like on this bad boy and I'll appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.